Hello, RWorld, and welcome back to RWorldTalk. Super excited, as always, to have a special guest with us this morning, Carlos Melendez, our immediate past president, Mr. DVP. Welcome.
Happy to be here, Chris. Happy to be here.
So how are things? Things are going good?
Things are going great, man. I'm enjoying a little bit of this extra time, but it seems like Florida Realtor has capitalized on that extra time. So
yeah, right?
Still quite busy.
Now you're working the DVP life.
Loving it. It's been great representing our district and really just making a great impression at the Florida Realtors level for our great association.
So for those of you guys that don't know, Florida Realtors has many different districts across the state, and RWorld happens to be so large that we have all of District 11. And Carlos happens to be our vice president for District 11, answering directly to Florida Realtors and their leadership team. So super exciting that we have you up there being our voice for real estate up at the state level. But let's talk about some social media platforms. Everybody knows that you're really big on social, but let's start with the new phenomenon that everybody wants to know about. It's called Threads.
Threads,
so
yes.
Is Threads going to be the death of Twitter? I mean, we saw 30 million signups in 12 hours. I think it's like the fastest onboarding of users that any platform has ever had. So what are your thoughts and what makes Threads so unique? Everybody wants to know, and I know that you're the guy to talk to about this stuff.
Absolutely, Chris. Well, Threads it's a new platform, right? And it's another platform coming out of Meta, which, as we all know, is Mark Zuckerberg's what formerly was Facebook, and now he's created this whole company, right, that revolves around AI and all these new platforms that he's developing. So Threads is a little bit, to answer the immediate question, no, I don't think in any way, shape, or form that Threads is going to be a Twitter killer by any means.
Okay.
And I'm going to elaborate into that because there's a couple different components as to why I feel that way. Number one, Threads, while it is an exact clone of Twitter to an extent, I mean, from the AI user interface, everything that you see with Threads is kind of like a copy and paste, quite frankly, of Twitter.
Really? Okay.
And that's why you see that Elon Musk has a lawsuit against Twitter right now. Against Threads right now in regards to that, because he feels that his intellectual property was essentially ripped off.
Stolen, right?
100%, right? Okay. So we see that aspect of it. So that's something that we're going to have to watch, because if he wins, then Threads goes away, right? Okay. So that's number one. Number two, we did see some historical growth in such a short amount of time when it comes to Threads, but we got to be cognizant of the fact that Threads is essentially a part of the Meta and Facebook, Instagram ecosystem. Okay. Through Threads.
The metaverse? The
metaverse, right? Okay. So the one thing you got to remember is that if you have signed up for Threads, I'm not sure if you've taken the time, I believe you did.
No, you told me to get on it, and I still have it. I'm always the last person to adopt any technology. I'm going to be brutally honest with you guys. I'm just a little bit of an older soul, and I just don't get into social media platforms as quickly as other people do. I know people jump all over it, and I'm just like, I'm going to wait and see what happens and how this is going to work for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, the vibe on Threads is totally different, right? If you've been on Twitter before, you know that Twitter tends to revolve around politics. They're very controversial type topics that we find on Twitter. Threads seems to be more of a hangout spot, where conversations tend to be more on the lighter side, right? Okay. From what I've seen. Another thing that you got to remember, I think why the growth was so large and so quick on Threads is because all you had to do was log into your Instagram, you clicked a button, and immediately your profile was synced, quite frankly. From your bio to your profile picture to everything that you had set up on your Instagram, with the click of a button, that's your Threads account. And now you have that linked alongside of your Instagram.
Wait a minute. So I can just jump on there and click one button and it's done?
And it's done. It's set up.
So I don't have to go and create a whole profile.
You don't have to do it. It'll be an exact clone when it comes to your profile picture, your bio, all the stuff that you have in your Instagram within a click of a button. Now your Threads is set up. So it makes it very user-friendly. Well, it makes it very user-friendly. But I do want to say to those that are listening and watching, be very careful when you make that decision, because one thing that if you didn't read the fine print on that user agreement, the moment you open that Threads account, it is married to your Instagram. And what I mean by that is that you can't just divorce it. It's till death do we part, meaning that once one goes, if you decide to disconnect your Threads account, your Twitter has gone along with, your Instagram, has gone along with it. So you can't just easily say, I'm over Threads, I'm not using it, I'm just going to go ahead and, close my account. Because if you do that, you have now closed your Instagram account by default.
Really?
Yes. Okay. So a lot of people that signed up were kind of having that realization after they spent a couple of days on Threads. They decided, it really wasn't for me. And then when they went to go through that process, that's when the reality hit them that, oh, wait a minute, you're telling me that if I do this, I lose this? And, that's a deterrent for a lot of people. So I got to give Zuckerberg credit, right? That he was smart enough to know that by doing that, his attrition rate is going to be very, very minimal, to say the least. Okay. Not to mention, that's, I think, what attributes to the big growth that he had. Because when you're already taking a platform that is already a very successful platform, and you're essentially taking that user base and introducing them to a new program or new app that all they got to do is click one button and they are now, quote unquote, set up on the app. I mean, I don't mean to say that it was easy pickings, but I think it was artificial growth. Yeah, I think it was artificial growth. I think that there's a very big difference from taking, for example, when you saw, a lot of other platforms come up from scratch. There was one recently that we all know that is kind of like oh my God, I forgot the name of it because quite frankly, it was never really a big deal for me. I kind of got into it really quickly and then I stopped. But it was the platform where people were always talking and kind of doing teaching and all of that.
Right.
Oh my God, my mind went in blank on it right now.
I know what you're talking about. It was almost like a radio kind of room thing.
Yeah, and you could go in and you can kind of create your own.
People are screaming at their radios right now going, it's whatever.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Right? And I apologize, guys, because quite frankly, it's not an app that I ever really embraced. It wasn't for me. I felt that particular application was more meant for maybe instructors or teachers or people that wanted to have that type of an audience and really give and conduct classes. But that was something that was invite only. And that platform, when you look at it, I kind of don't even hear about it really anymore. It's something that kind of fizzled out pretty quickly. And I'm sure it's still pretty highly used amongst that niche group, but it wasn't something that was really just mainstream, in my opinion. So it took even that platform, it grew. They went the invitation only route for a little bit, and then it ended up growing. Right. But it wasn't as a huge growth as you've seen on this platform. And again, I think that has to do with the fact that they were starting from scratch, where, Zuckerberg was essentially just saying, hey guys, I have all these millions of users on Instagram. Here, let me introduce you to a new product that all you have to do is click a button and now you have an account.
Right.
So, and quite frankly, I think that you have a lot of people that were a little bit upset with the acquisition of Twitter by Elon Musk, that they felt like, okay, now that Elon Musk is kind of reining back all the censorship that was happening on Twitter, a lot of them decide, I'm going to go to, Threads because essentially I'm going to feel more comfortable on Threads. Gotcha. Because honestly, we see that that Mark Zuckerberg does have a history of censoring things that he doesn't like on his platforms. We've seen that on Facebook. People end up in Facebook jail. We make the joke all the time for opposing views. You see that, on Twitter, that was happening quite frequently.
Sometimes Facebook can be oversensitive.
100%. So I think that you're going to see that. I think that we're still very early on Threads. And I think that depending on how Zuckerberg and his team decides to enact any type of, screening of content, I think they got to be very careful with that. I think that if they start over-censoring people, it's going to be, you're going to start seeing where their user count might not drop, but I think that the activity on Threads, you'll start seeing that it's going to drop. We're already seeing it right now. If you've been following the trends, you're seeing that in comparison to when Threads came out a week or so ago, the user rate and the activity on Threads was skyrocketing. It was very, very high. And now we're starting to see a little bit of a lull. You're starting to see people that are not as active. I mean, I hate to say it, but myself, I've kind of stopped posting as much because it tends to be the same content that I'm seeing on IG. It's kind of like, people are taking their content on IG, reposting it on Threads with maybe a little bit of a longer caption.
Right.
So quite frankly, why am I going to kind of stay on two platforms seeing the same content?
It's like when you post something on Facebook and it automatically posts to Instagram as well. So a lot of times you're just seeing double up of what's going on.
Don't do that. And I tell people this all the time, especially when I'm teaching.
Is there a way to shut that off?
Yeah, I mean, that's just a syndication button that you have within, your application. Just got to make sure that that's turned off so that when you're posting, it's not cross-platform, cross-posting throughout all these different platforms.
Good to know. Okay. Well, for you guys who can see, I wore a special T-shirt for Carlos today, so that leads us into the next question. But for those who can't, I wore a TikTok famous T-shirt under my blazer today. Carlos, you have been extremely successful on TikTok as well as Instagram. You're like the Puerto Rican realtor, traveler, enthusiast extraordinaire. So Why are you so diverse with your content, number one? And how has this method and style sort of increased your real estate business? Because you're not always posting real estate, and we've talked about this in previous episodes. Yeah. Okay, so tell us about that. Well, what is your MO with the reason that you're posting such specific and eclectic content?
Well, I think for me, it was an early on experience that I had when I first started my TikTok journey, as they say, right? Because early on, when the TikTok algorithm first started, it was very rewarding. As long as you were consistent in posting content, you were rewarded with eyeballs on your content, right? People were watching, and you could pretty much grow a decent following if you were consistent and making sure that you were posting engaging content.
You got up on that For You page.
Exactly. And unlike Instagram, where it's extremely hard to grow, and YouTube, extremely hard to grow, especially in today's environment, it's so competitive. At the time, TikTok was a new platform. They were growing tremendously. They were the number one app for quite some time. And a lot of that had to do, again, with their algorithm and with the fact that they were really not restraining people's ability to have a larger audience and really get larger exposure. At first, I thought, like most realtors do, I'm going to start posting all my property walkthroughs and all this kind of stuff, and it's going to help me just grow this audience. It's going to be a great referral business, right? And I started realizing that people didn't really care about, here's my 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, single-family home. Let me show you. People don't care. I mean, if you've seen one 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, chances are you've seen them all type of deal.
Right.
So I kind of started transitioning to posting my cafecito videos, because if you know me, if you follow me on social media, you know I love coffee, and every morning I would do my cafecito
That's
videos.
when I started watching you, were those cafecito videos, and you were talking about the spumante.
Espumita and all that stuff. Exactly. Trying to show how I make my cafecito, which actually is not a Puerto Rican thing. It comes from the Cuban culture. But as you know, here in South Florida, we have a very large Cuban community. So a lot of my friends taught me early on how to make that perfect cup of espresso. So, of course, I wanted to share that with the world, and that's kind of where I got started. And I started noticing that my engagement rate, the amount of views I was getting and interaction that I was getting on those videos was far higher and much more elevated than I was getting on anything real estate related. So then I kind of started exploring that a little bit more, and I kind of started expanding and really talking about, culture, about my culture specifically, being Puerto Rican. I'm very prideful, and I hold my culture, my people, my island very dear and near to my heart. So I wanted to kind of, again, provide that culture, provide that outsider view for those that are in the diaspora, Puerto Ricans living here in the U.S. that might not be in the island, giving them an opportunity to really learn about their culture through the eyes of another Boricua that is here in the diaspora but grew up on the island. So I started posting food content, right? And immediately, those videos blew up. I was getting 300, 400, 500,000 views. I was getting hundreds of comments, thousands of shares. And that's when the light bulb went off. That for me, I realized that diverse content using what I call universal languages. We all love to eat. It's something 100%. We can all connect with.
Especially that mango chow.
Oh my God, it's so good, right? So my point is that by doing something that was universal, that it didn't matter what language you spoke, it doesn't matter where you lived or where you're from, we all love to eat. So capitalizing on things like that, mixing that in with culture, right? Being able to show people, the Puerto Rican culture, how diverse it is, all the amazing things our tiny little island has to offer. I started talking about, different restaurants, and I would go and help small businesses by going in and just, helping each other out. They would allow me to come in with my video equipment. I would record a quick video. And mind you, I was never paid for this stuff. I would literally pay for my meal. I would never expect anything for free.
Right.
But I would go ahead and I would take that content and I would put it on Facebook, or I would put it on Instagram, and specifically on Twitter as well. But typically I was coming from my TikTok. I was taking all those links from TikTok and sharing them on all these platforms, driving the traffic back. And I started noticing that the engagement, again, continued to go. I was growing really quickly. 800 followers turned into 1,500. Next thing you know, I'm at 5,000. Next thing you know, I'm at 15, 20, 30. And I'm now almost about to break 100,000 followers on that platform.
Awesome.
So it's been a great growth. And I think for me, where it translates to business, where I think a lot of our audience would really like to know, right, is that I always made sure, especially early on, that while I was not always dressed, in a suit, I would make sure that I had some type of branding on, right? I would make sure that I either had, my
your branded ball cap hat, while you're doing your food video,
my branded baseball hat, or maybe a branded polo shirt that would let people know that, hey, I'm a realtor. I would also make sure that when I'm creating my hashtags, I created a hashtag that's very unique to me, which is Los the Realtor. As you all know, most of my friends, you call me Los all the time. Yep. It's short for Carlos. So it kind of intertwined. And every video I put out there, it was hashtag Los the Realtor. I would also make sure that in my bio, your favorite South Florida realtor. So I always use those opportunities to make sure that my audience was aware of what I did, but I didn't let it be my only identifier. I allowed people to kind of connect with Carlos, of who Carlos really is outside of helping somebody buy a home. You know, what drives me, what I love, what I enjoy, which, as you know, is eating, traveling, exploring new places, my culture, going to Puerto Rico, all those fun things that not only make me who I am, but also showcases the lifestyle that we have here in South Florida, right?
Dude, you can eat. I see you eat so freaking much, and I'm like, how in the world are you not 600 pounds right now?
You know, God bless me with a very fast metabolism, some Puerto Rican genes.
Right on. So now that you're our association's past president, I mean, we've talked about social media and sort of what you do in that respect, but now that you're the past president of the association, you've freed up some more time. We talked about that just when we kicked it off, that now, Florida Realtors has taken up that time with you being DVP, but what are some of your new goals and aspirations moving forward out of being the association president, currently still serving as immediate past president, which is nothing to shake a stick at. That's a lot of work too. So I know that I'm going to get some time freed up, but you're still always by my side, right there to help out. But what do you have in the future moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, right? At first, I thought to myself, well, the first thing I did, as you know, which I hope you do as well, and I hope, Dion, our CEO, isn't listening, right? But take a vacation, man. That's the first thing I did. You know that. The moment I was done with my term, I celebrated in Puerto Rico. Surprise, surprise. I ran into New Year there on top of a mountain, and kind of took some time off, right? Because family is extremely important. I'm blessed and super lucky that my wife, my beautiful wife, Amy, is also a realtor, also highly involved with our organization as well as on a state level. So she was always very supportive and understanding, and I'm so grateful for that. But it was time to give her some, quality time and be able to spend time with her and my family. So that was the first thing I did. I wanted to make sure that I kind of took some time for myself and recharge those batteries, right?
100%. But I think people don't realize how much work being the president actually is. And I'm now halfway through my year, and I've got fantastic support from my family. But at the same time, they cannot wait to get me back.
Oh, 100%. I mean, people don't realize that this is a secondary job. I mean, it's a second full-time job.
Full-time job.
And quite frankly, a lot of people looking outside in, they think that, you're getting all of this privilege and all of these amazing events that you go to and all that, but they don't realize the time that goes into it. I mean, sometimes, while I'm at a gala or somewhere else, and I'm sure you feel the same way, I'd rather be, curled up on the couch with my wife, right? Spending time with my family.
Or sometimes you're at the gala and you're still trying to close deals that are
100%, right? 100%, because it's not like we're salaried employees, right? So, it is a volunteer position, and it is coming out of our time to generate business for ourselves, our family, and everything else. But I think, with this newfound time, I want to get back on my bike. I've been doing that recently, get back to being healthy and really, exercising. One of the things I love to do is cycling. As you know, I'm one of those guys that you scream at on the road on A1A at, 6:30 in the morning. So I do enjoy that.
Before either of us were presidents, you were like a cycling maniac. You were out like every single weekend.
Yep.
And then I didn't see you post anything about cycling when you were the president.
Yeah, the presidency, man, it took a lot of time. When it comes to the point where, all of a sudden you're very limited on time off, you got to really prioritize. And, going to my wife and saying, hey, babe, I'm going to spend a couple hours on A1A on the bike. She probably would, as supportive as she is, it probably wouldn't have been fair to her. So I wanted to make sure to, take the free time, as I mentioned, and be able to allocate it properly. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to, continuing to expand on my social media aspirations, right? And continue to grow those accounts because, one of the things I didn't mention earlier is that through what I've created and the platform that I've created specifically on TikTok, throughout the pandemic and everything else, I probably sent out over 250 referrals. Throughout Puerto Rico and the U.S. because of people connecting with me on a different level,
Amazing.
Not just through marketing. So I want to continue building on that. I also have aspirations. It's kind of like they say, volunteerism is something that becomes a disease to an extent, an addiction, right? Because the way it makes you feel when you empower others and help others grow,
100%.
It's something that you kind of always want that feeling, right?
So true.
So I see myself continuing, hopefully, to make an impact here at a local level wherever I'm needed, but at the same time growing throughout the state level. I'm very happy and grateful that I was given this opportunity this year to be the district vice president for the best district in the state of Florida. But I'd love to continue to grow through Florida Realtors. So I do have aspirations of continuing to chair committees and possibly one day maybe even run for the executive line.
Awesome.
As you know, I'm also a national director for NAR.
Yep.
So being involved continuously as well at the national level and continue to grow in that level so I can continue to bring that support and that education and that insight to our local level, to me is something that I hold very dearly. And of course, like anything else, you have your own business aspirations. So continuing to grow my business and hopefully continuing to invest in Puerto Rico and maybe start purchasing some more properties over there and creating some Airbnbs. My family has actually purchased already 3 in Puerto Rico right on the beach at great prices. So we've been trying to expand on that. Right. But I'd like to do that between me and Amy as well. So that's our goal as of right now.
Awesome. Amazing. So I know that you've got to get back to work. One thing that we ask every single guest that's on the podcast, we need you to tell us, and I've got this, like, as soon as you just crack that smile, I feel like I already know what you're going to tell me. Anywhere in the state of Florida, we need to hear about your favorite gem. It could be a restaurant, a bar, it could be some sort of shop or cafe. Tell us about a little Florida gem, maybe a little tourist spot, something that we need to know about and something that we need to visit in our travels throughout the summer.
You're going to laugh, but as you know, I'm a foodie. I love food. It's hard for me to just give you one because we're blessed here in South Florida. We have so many amazing spots, whether it be, waterfront restaurants, whether it be breakfast spots, whether it be an amazing taco, right? There's so many good spots. But I would say something that kind of is near and dear to my heart that I grew up eating here in Florida. I have a lot of great memories at this place. And you might have been there yourself, being that you're down in the Broward County area, is the Whale's Rib.
Okay.
I don't know if you've been there. It's right.
I have not.
It's right in Deerfield Beach. It's a very small. Well, at the time, it's been around longer than I've been on this earth, right? And I just turned 40 years old. Well, I'm about to be 41 next month.
Okay.
Damn, I just dated myself. But it's a very, very small restaurant, and they probably have some of the best seafood at some of the most affordable prices. I remember going there with my dad when I was a child. I'm talking about 2, 3, 4 years old. We would go there, and I could remember, just like it was yesterday, my dad eating 2, 3 dozen clams and having his beers, and it was just such a great time. And it's a hole in the wall. It's actually been on the Food Network as, I forget the name of the show, but what is it? Wines, Dives, and...
Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives.
There you go. That one right there.
Guy Fieri.
Yep. And it was ranked as one of the best places here in Deerfield Beach.
Okay.
They were on that show, and their food is phenomenal. Their prices are great. Their seafood is fresh. And I just love that place because it's just,
That's not where I thought you were going. I thought we were going up to Orlando because we've got Florida Realtors coming up soon. But I thought we were going to talk about some bifungal. That's why
it's hard because you kind of mentioned here in our area, but absolutely, if I was going to be in Orlando, man, you've got Grillers PR in Orlando.
Grillers, that's the place.
You got Grillers, has some phenomenal food. They've got several locations in Orlando.
The stuff was called bifungal that we ate, right?
Yeah, so you had some bifungal, which is a mixture of plantain and a root vegetable, and it's kind of mixed together. It's very soft, and as you know, it's delicious.
It was amazing.
And they have a great variety, traditional Puerto Rican food with a fusion twist. They even have sushi up there that has a Puerto Rican twist to it. I mean, you have Puerto Rican bakeries up there like... Taínos, which is one of my favorites. Milao Bakery.
Is that Milao is the place that you hit every time we leave?
Milao is the one that we hit up every time just because it's so close to our convention area where we meet at the Rose and Shingle Creek. It's literally just a block down. You have to pass it to get there.
Right.
So I make sure to stop there every single time. So if you're in the Orlando area, and you want some good spots to check out, you definitely got to check out Grillers. If you want amazing bakeries for some amazing pastries and some amazing stuff, check out Milao Bakery and Taínos Bakery for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us. And we will see you guys next time on RWorldTalk.